Today we're here with John Godfrey. He's the Member of Parliament for Don Valley West, and we have some questions for him. As chair of the Liberal Environment Caucus, do you think the recent earthquake in Japan will initiate a run in fuel reserves to make up for a nuclear power shortfall?
I think what we've got is a larger problem than the earthquake in Japan. The earthquake in Japan will exacerbate a global energy shortage. We are facing a tremendous crisis right around the world. And so when you have something go wrong with one of the power sources, it puts a pressure on the other ones, whether it's oil and gas or everything else. So if you take a look at the big picture, I think what we're going to be seeing is pressure to put in more nuclear facilities around the world, higher oil prices and gas prices, and a real need to initiate all sorts of conservation measures here in Canada, indeed in North America.
Do you think the Conservative government will live up to any of the obligations in the Kyoto Protocol Bill C-288?
Well, just to recall, Dana, what that's about, it's a bill which says that essentially Canada needs a plan, a climate change plan, which it presents annually to be reviewed by the Commissioner for Sustainable Development and by Parliament. And it needs to show Canadians and parliamentarians how each element of the plan will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and get us closer to our Kyoto target. The bill recognizes that we have an obligation to do our best to meet the Kyoto target. I don't think the government intends to honor the Kyoto Agreement or to respect this bill. So I'm not very optimistic that they're actually going to even present a serious climate change plan to Parliament, let alone try and get close to the Kyoto target.
What is the legal process when the governing party does not allow and follow the process of a bill that has received royal assent?
Well, if there's a bill which is fully operational, and that is the case now for Bill 288, C-288, then if the government fails to meet certain deadlines, and there are a number of them coming up, it needs to file a plan, I think, by the 20th or something of August, for example.
23rd, I think.
Something like that. Any time they fail to hit one of the deadlines spelled out in the bill, then a citizen can say, can take the government to court saying you have failed to live up to your legal obligations. And so there'll be a whole series of potential legal actions which anyone could undertake. I suspect it would be environmental groups that would do it first.
That's good to know. And what are the position of the Liberal Party on this issue?
Well, what we say is, look, it is going to be increasingly difficult to live up to Kyoto because the Conservatives have undermined all of the things that we put in place. However, we're still legally obliged to give it our best shot, and we should tell Canadians how we intend to do that and what we'll do if the things we brought in don't work. So it's really an accountability measure, and we would respect that if we were in power.
Are Canadians prepared to make the economical sacrifices required to implement the Kyoto Accord?
I think that's putting the question the wrong way. I think the suggestion is that it's a choice between economic prosperity on the one hand and honoring Kyoto on the other. The true equation is that if we don't start to honor the Kyoto Agreement and lower greenhouse gases, both in Canada and around the world, then the economic consequences of that over time will be very, very severe. Sir Nicholas Stern produced a report for the British government which outlined some of the costs of inaction, which are far greater than the costs of action. So it will cost something up front to start those reductions of greenhouse gases, but we are already seeing the consequences of climate change, whether it's Hurricane Katrina and the impacts on New Orleans or the floods in Britain, which have been taking place, which hasn't been seen since it's bigger than the floods of 1947. We're starting to see extreme weather events, and that costs money too. So we're going to actually have to spend twice. We're going to have to spend to reduce greenhouse gases, to reduce the impact of climate change, but we're already in it. So we're going to have to start spending money as well to reduce the impacts of climate change, which are already on us.
That's true, they are. How do you think an event like the recent Earth Day concert impacts on people worldwide? Do you think it had any effect?
Well, I think that it helps to raise consciousness, but frankly, I would put more store on Al Gore's film The Inconvenient Truth and his lectures. I think that had a much bigger effect on people's minds, and people who actually go and listen to Al Gore come away saying, oh, you know, we've really got to do something here. So I don't think that the concerts on this one day were, I think they were a good thing, because they yet reinforce the message that climate change is real. But I think we need to move beyond that. I think where we are now, and this is where we are as a Liberal Party, is we've got to start showing Canadians, well, what are the solutions which actually will not only reduce greenhouse gases but produce greater energy efficiency, create jobs, whether it's in the housing sector, whether it's in the automobile sector, whether it's in industry, whether it's how we run our households. And it is not a negative thing to reduce, for example, the costs of heating your home. Who wants to pay a whole lot of money every month for their oil bills or their gas bills if you could find ways of reducing that consumption and reducing greenhouse gases at the same time?
And it's doable. It really
Absolutely doable. All the technologies we need are in place, and what we need as governments is to work together, that is to say with municipalities, with the provinces, to bring about, to say, the changes of building codes, which would reduce the need for as much carbon fuel, and hence reduce carbon emissions. It's all doable.
Thank you.
I'm very glad to be here, and thank you all very much.